Welcome back, guys. To this is the part two of the if statement video clip that I previously did. So in this part two, we will talk about a bit advanced functions of if statement, where this includes lists and many other things, and new commands like in and as or is commands that are probably used in Python library. So let's begin. So the first thing I will be teaching you about will be nested if statements. So what is a nested if? So a nested if is an if statement within an if statement. That is what a nested if is. For example, x is less than 500. Okay, is less than 500, 5020, or this 500. And a nested if is another if statement inside this current if statement. So that is what a nested if statement is. Then 200. Okay, so if it's less than 200, I can say print less than less than 200. Okay, and now I can add another else statement for this if statement. So this becomes a new if else block. Okay, as the last time I taught you about the block level execution of if else statement. So let's say print, I don't know if it's not less than 200. I don't know. Okay, that's what it will execute. And I will put another else statement here. Say print something. Okay, nothing comes to my mind, so I just wrote something. So let me explain this, how this execution works. So this is what a nested if is, an if statement inside another if statement. So for this if statement, this is a single if statement block, including else for this if statement. Okay, so the nested if statement here is another block. Okay, and this else statement belongs to this if statement. Okay, so this is a single block, and this is also another if block. So there's an if block inside the parent if block, which is this. That is what a nested if is. So when you execute this, let's see what the output is. See, it says less than 200. Yes. So currently when it runs x is equal to 100, and it checks if it is true. Yes, x 100 is less than 500, then it is true. Then it will start executing this block, the code, the logic inside that if statement. So when it's then again the if statement will check if 100 is less than 200. Yes, it's true. Then it will execute this. Okay, that's why it printed less than 100 to less than 200. And this did not get executed because this is true. So let's assume this is somewhat like a value like 300. Okay, which is greater than 200. So when I execute this, what do you think will happen? So it will execute this X statement. It will check if 300 is less than 500, and obviously it's true. So if it is true, we can execute what is inside that if statement. So it will start executing this if statement, and now it will execute this if statement, the nested if part inside the if statement. So now it checks if 300 is less than 200, and that is false. So this won't execute, and this will execute by default. So this will print I don't know as the output. Let's see, and let's run it and see it. As you can see, I don't know got printed. Now let's go to the third step, third way to check the third example. Assume this is 700. What do you think the output would be? So what the output would be is, so currently x is 700. Now the question is 700 less than 500? The answer is false. That is not true. So this block of code will not get executed because it's false. So the else statement will get executed by default because the above if statement is false. So when the else statement gets executed, it will print something. Let's check the outcome. As I said, it printed something. That is how a nested if works. So currently this is a basic way. So let's talk about another thing, about an AND operators, how to use AND operators. Okay, you don't for this example, let's avoid this and use an AND operator instead of a nested if. So what AND operator does is, in Python, is it's like the logic AND. So for example, say A intersects B. What is common to A and B when it comes to probability? So what AND is, both should be true. That is what AND is. For example, you and me. So it considers you and me, both of us. So in this case, if we had x is less than 200 and remove this code, and you can win. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay, so now let's put a value like 100. Let's see how the execution works. Okay, so now it goes like this. So is 100 less than 500? That's the first question the logic will ask, and the answer is true, right? Then this AND is the second question the logic will ask. Is 100 less than 200? And what is your logic? The logic will also say yes, obviously it's true. So true and true, if both are true, then the if statement will execute, and it will say yeah, it's true, both are true. So so if both are true, it will execute the print statement. As you can see, when I execute, yeah, it's true, that was executed. So let's assume a value like 300. So when I execute, what do you think the execution should be? Okay, so is 300 less than 500? Yes, true. And is x less than 200? Is 300 less than 200? False. So in this scenario, this is true and this is false. If this is true and false, the execution will not happen, because this if statement expects both to be true to execute the logic inside that if statement. If one is false and one is true, it will not execute. If both are also false, it won't execute. Okay, I'll also explain the other after a few seconds. So when I execute this, it will say print something, because one is true and the other is false. That's what an AND statement is all about. So when you execute, something is printed because one is true and the other is false. So let's say a value like 3000. So again, it will go to the if else execution. Is 3000 less than 500? False. Is 3000 less than 200? False. So both are false. So what do you think the output would be? The output will be print something, because in this case both are false. So to execute this, to execute this block of code, both these cases should be true. That's the specialty of AND statement. If both are true, then you can execute the if block. If both are false, or if at least one is false, then it won't execute that block of if statement, and it will execute this. So that's why it said something. It executes this piece of code because this is false for both cases. So now let's check OR statement. Or it's like how can I say this? or it's like mm, it's like you owe me. So in a scenario when you speak, we say you owe me should jump into a well. Just an assumption. Okay, you owe me should jump in the well. So in this case, at least one of us should jump into the well. So the case becomes true. Yeah, both. It did not say both of us. If both of us jump is also true, if one of us jump is also true, because you owe me is the case here. Okay, in this scenario, the same scenario is applied to this scenario using the O operator. Okay, so assume a value like 100 again. So this is true and this is true. So obviously the block of code will execute. Say I am jumping and you are jumping. Okay, then obviously it's true, because in O statement both of at least one should jump, right? So it will execute. Let's see. Yeah, it is true. So now assume a value like 300. In this case, we say x is less than 300. Yes, it's true. And this is false, right? 300 is not less than 200. So if it is false, it is true and false, obviously it will execute. That is what O means. Because in this scenario, you or me should jump into the well. So in this scenario, I jump into the well, and of course, the statement becomes true because it's or. At least one should be true for the statement, the logics to start execute, or for this whole statement to be by default be true. That's what or is about. So say, yeah, it is true. So it got executed. This statement got executed because at least one was true. That's why it got executed. So in a scenario like 3000, what do you think? This is false and this is false. So if both are false, if both of us jump, if both of us did not jump, the statement is by default is false, right? So this is false and this is false, and this statement becomes a return type with false. So that makes this not executable. So it will execute the else statement. Okay, so when you execute and see, something was printed because both the cases were false. So in all statements, again, at least one logic should be true. In AND statements, all the logics related to with the AND statement should be true. Okay, for this block of code to execute. So that's it, guys, for this if statements and nested if statements and or. So in the next video clip, I will explain about is statements and not and state as statements that can be used in your Python program. So bye, guys. Let's meet the next video.